In this video, we've got Miraidon versus Gholdengo, testing out some of those matchups. Gholdengo, a deck which hasn't quite had its impact yet. Miraidon, a very popular deck. Let's take a look at the deck lists. Now, I will say this was filmed a while ago, so these deck lists are as close as I can remember. Obviously, cards do change. We're testing, we're trying things out. But I think this is the list here. It's a very similar list to what I played to a cup recently. And it is going up against Gholdengo, so nothing stand out here. I think maybe the only things different would be the Zapdos. There is also a Thornton in this list, which probably replaces a Beach Court. Thornton able to switch out a basic Pokemon. It just means we can reuse stuff like Raichu. We can surprise attack with Zapdos and Iron Hands and things like that, which we do actually get off in this game. Let's take a look at Gholdengo though. Obviously, the main problem with this is not having a single prize attacker into those matchups like Gardevoir, into Lost Box, stuff like that where it can use single prizes. This deck can really struggle. Other than that, it's fairly standard, but we have reworked this list to include the Gallade line. So we've got Curlier for the card draw. Bibarel, not that useful. Obviously, drawing a ton of cards via coin bonus, Radiant Greninja, all of that stuff. Just getting more and more cards in hand. Worker means Bibarel isn't online very often. So after this video, we did switch to a Gallade, which we will bring to the channel at some point. It just means you can find supporters when you need them, like the Worker, to get out of Path, because Path absolutely wrecks this deck, so you need tons of out. I know there's loads in the deck, but you don't always have them in hand when you need them. So the list for this video is on screen. The list going forward is something more like this. We've got a few single prize attackers with Gallade and Luxray via the Reversal Energy. Obviously, when you're behind, Luxray can jump onto your bench. Gallade is going to be on the bench anyway, searching out for your support cards. Means we can play slightly fewer Worker, slightly less outs. I do want to find some room in this list for a Stadium. I know we can sort of decide when we find the Worker, but I think maybe a Power Pad or something just so we can keep... I don't know what I would like as a Stadium in this list, which is why I haven't put one in yet. Could probably thin out some of the Pokemon, or potentially maybe some of the Switch cards, maybe some of the other cards. Just Artisan probably is a good Stadium if you do want to make this list. It's something we're testing out. It's something we're trying. I think we'll probably put Artisan in. I think I've actually got Artisan in and something else. Stadiums are always good for bouncers as well, but this is a slightly more... I would say this is a more competitive version. In this video, we've got Miraidon versus the other version. I think Miraidon does struggle into this one. Gholdengo is not that popular of a deck, so you don't really want to tech cards in to deal with it, but that 260 can be quite hard to hit. You've obviously got Raichu that can get there. Other than that, Miraidon's just out of reach. You've got Raikou just out of reach. A lot of Pokemon which can't quite get that number. The Mew EX, no value in this one. The only thing you can do is chain Iron Hands, and you can start to take some early knockouts and take some of those gimme ghouls for extra prizes. If you can do that early on, if you can get ahead, you might win it. But I do think it is in favour of the Gholdengo player. But we'll see how we get on here. It's good to see the deck in play. I do think it's a better deck. It's a deck that we don't see enough of. And somebody is going to crack the list eventually, and it's going to have some kind of place in, or get some cards to support it in the upcoming formats. Currently though, this one is using the Bibarel engine, the Greninja. As you can see there, drawing some extra cards. Just trying to get as many cards as possible into hand, get all those energies ready for an attack. It does also run the Arven package, so we do talk about it in this game, and she decides to go second in the following game so she can use the evolution tool, evolve up some Gholdengos, and yeah, just get going a little quicker. It's just going to be the attach for turn here, and it does look like a pass. Over to Miraidon here. Tandem unit always coming out first. Pretty good start here just to check what's been prized, get out the Pokemon we want. I think, like I mentioned, going for something like the Iron Hands is always good. Get out as many Pokemon as possible, and the Iron Hands does come down there along with a Mareep. Just to accelerate some energy later on via Flaffy. It's just going to be those leaving that space potentially for a Squawkabilly or a Mew EX. And it is, speaking of the Arven, going to come down the other side, searching out that Forest Seal Stone and the Electric Generator. Fairly standard combo to find for Miraidon. Obviously the Generator getting some extra energies into play. Whilst the Forest Seal Stone can grab you whatever you want, even under Path. It's a very powerful card in this deck. Great to slam on the Raichu or Raikous. And it is 2 energy off the Generator there onto the Iron Hands. That is a big swing. We could see the Forest Seal Stone search out a double turbo here, and the deck is off to a flyer. It's why I like playing at least one of those. I don't even hate to. Okay, it's already in hand, so we don't even need to search that out. It is just going to be, I guess, a switch or escape rope now just to get that Iron Hands into the active, depending on what's in deck. And it is going to be the V-Star to find a switch card, I'm guessing. And we're going to see Amp You Very Much taking 2 early prizes, which is what we mentioned. If this deck is going to beat Gholdengo, it needs to go up early. It needs to take some early prizes, and it is going to be the escape rope. Maybe the switch has been prized. Yeah, we are going to see that here now. And Amp You Very Much taking 2 very early prizes. If they can stay ahead, they've got 2 early. They might be able to work down a Gholdengo, and taking a 2-hit knockout might not be as impactful. The Ultra Ball goes down here. We could see a Squawk. We could see a Mew EX. And it is going to be the Mew EX. I would guess the Squawk is prized, or I guess we just want the pivot. So we've got a Retreater here. Yeah, it could be either. And it does give us some options to draw cards in the following turn as we play the hand down. On the return then, we've got Gholdengo being slammed down. We've got Greninja. Again, searching for some more cards. That is not a good looking hand. We have got Worker. So you can see this deck just draws a ton of cards. That's drawed for turn. We've got 2 from Greninja, 3 from Worker, and 2 more from Gholdengo. So it's just a ton of cards. The more Gholdengos you have in play, the more you can draw as well. It's such a powerful deck. I think Path is quite painful for it. So even though we're playing the Bibarel variant here, we have since changed the deck. So recently Charizard was paired with Curlier and Gallade, and that saw some success. And I've sort of moved that into this Gholdengo list. So we've got the Gallade so they can find the Worker, get out of Path, because under Path this deck really struggles. Outside of it, it is actually quite powerful. So we've gone for Gallade so we can find those supporters when we need them to get out of Path and other things. We've also got the Curliers as draw support. Obviously with things like the Bibarel, a lot of the time you've got a ton of energy in hand or a ton of cards in hand because you draw so many cards as it is. You don't really get to use the Bibarel. So we've gone for the Curliers just to draw extra cards instead. Also putting a reversal energy and thinking about putting in Luxray so we can use that as an attacker, but also the Gallade can use his attack, and you've got a single prizer in the deck, which is what I think this deck is missing. And it is just going to be a big knockout there from Gholdengo, and that's what I mean. Very easy for Gholdengo to get knockouts, not so easy in the return for Miraidon. We're going to see what we can get going here, but there is, just looking at the board, there's no way we see a 1-hit knockout here. So the only thing that could work would potentially be a Raikou, probably the easiest to set up there, or Miraidon. And I think that is Zapdos EX going down. So this is it's a card I have been trying out just for those matchups where you can't quite take a knockout or a 1-hit knockout. Stuff like the Calyrex, the Gholdengo. Other decks where it's really difficult, the Gardevoir EX. So you can potentially throw some damage on them and then boss up something else and take potentially 4 prizes if you can boss up like a Lumineon and then snipe the bench. So it has a few, it's got a few ways to use it. I do actually quite like the card. Still umming and ahhing if I should keep it in or not, but yeah, it helps you keep up in trades if you are struggling. It's also really good into Roaring Moon. Obviously, it damages itself, so you can boss up like a Squawk or a Lumineon and take a 4 prize turn, which is always good. So it is going to be going into the Raikou here. And it's going to be, it's just going to be the attack. There's not much else set up on the side of, okay, Gimmighoul does go down as I say that. But you would like to see some Gimmighouls, some maybe Bidoofs, just so later on if you are Ionode or Judge and then Paft, you have some ways out of this. And it is just going to be some more energy and Gimmighoul going back into the deck. It's going to be interesting here to see, because you're going to need quite a bit set up, like I say there. And maybe Miraidon can just force its way to victory here. Obviously, the Zapdos set up on the bench. It can take... Actually, it's not quite enough damage on the Gholdengo to even snipe it with a Zapdos. So that... Maybe we'll like to see like a Miraidon attack there instead of Raikou. Would have needed a few more things, but... Yeah, I don't think that's going to be quite enough. And it's going to be an awkward situation now. Do you boss something up? I guess you still put pressure on. It's just not ideal. And it's just going to be an attack back for 100 damage, which is not good. Gholdengo struggling here. If you don't get the Gimme Ghouls down, if you don't get a ton of Gholdengos into play, it is a little more difficult to draw cards, especially without Bidoof in play, evolving up to that Bibarel. So we are going to see the Mew being set up here. I'm wondering what the play there is. I'm guessing it's to boss up Greninja and use Moonlight Shuriken. But obviously can't use the Gholdengo attack, as that's not really going to help. You don't really want to be throwing energy away. And it is just going to be an attack from the Raikou to take a knockout there. That's one way of doing it. We're going to need to see a Gholdengo come down here to stay in play. So it does come down, but there is a path. And it is just going to be a pass. One thing here is the amount of energy being thrown down, played by Flaffy. 100% should already be attached to Flaffy. Thought we were going to see it there. It's one of those things, when you're ahead, you don't really think about ways you can lose the game. You're sort of rushing ahead, you're not really thinking, because if we see a boss here, that Flaffy is going to be stuck. Obviously, if it's got an energy attached, whenever a player looks over there, you know a boss is coming. So we're going to see that Flaffy come into the active. There's so many energy in the discard, there's so many in hand. And now the Gholdengo player might be able to get back into this and just stall the game out. If you play Miraidon, always make sure you got an energy on that Flaffy, especially... Okay, so we're going to see a research here. A ton of cards ditched there. We're going to need a switch. We're going to need... We did note one of the switches were prized. So obviously that's still in the last two prize cards because we didn't see it played from hand there. Which does mean there's not many outs left in deck. There's going to be potentially another escape rope. We've already used a double turbo on the Iron Hands early on to get it attacking. So this is going to be... This could easily swing back. And this is what I mean. If you don't set up ahead of time, it's too late. You can't set it up when it's in the active. You need that energy on it before. And it is just going to be a slow grind to find their way back into this one. Obviously, Gholdengo would need another boss, and it would need a lot more to get some energy back and actually into play. It's just going to be pass back and forth, draw, attach, pass, draw, pass. And we'd need to see another energy here. Don't actually see one in hand, so it is literally just going to be a pass back. Both players trapped under path here. Pass back, draw, pass, draw, pass. And it is the escape rope, which is... Okay, so the Zapdos is a good attacker here. Obviously, it can knock out the Greninja and throw 90 onto the Gholdengo, which does mean I think this game is all but wrapped up here. Gholdengo is going to come into the active. It is trapped under path. There's nothing else on the bench here, and it's going to be a draw. And for 50. And that is the concession there. Taking the knockout, Zapdos finishing things off here. Going into game 2, where I mentioned Arven comes into play more. Gholdengo is going second in this one. You know, we don't see the quick Miraidon attack from Iron Hands. Also, the Gholdengo player is much quicker to set up, so this is going to be an interesting one. I do think in Paradox Rift, this was filmed quite early on, and people were still sort of deciding where to go with decks. Should you go first? Should you go second? And with those Arven heavy lists, with the evolution tool and other things, I think going second is definitely favoured. It does also mean in this matchup, Miraidon, like we say, isn't going to get that quick attack off. It is going to get a turn to set up though, and we do see the same again. Double tandem unit here. Getting the Raikou in play in case you hit the Forest Sealstone. In a Mareep. We could see double Mareep here. It was quite good in the last game. Potentially not. The Iron Hands isn't in deck, or it could be in hand. I think you want to save that last space for the Squawk or Mew ideally though. We are going to see here. It might just be a pass. It says energy. Escape rope. So the energy was in hand there. It went to attach, but it switched to an escape rope. Hopefully we don't miss the attachment there. And okay, so we have missed it. Trying to play a little too quick there. Path goes down though, and it's bumped immediately by the Pokestop. That is what we want to see. Pokestop. Oh, that is rough. Absolutely nothing from there. The Pokestop, yeah, going to the discard as well. That is rough. But we do see a VIP pass, and this is one of the advantages of going second. You can Arven for VIP and Evolution Tool, and you can just... It's so much quicker. You're not as luck reliant, so you can find those outs rather than just relying on them being in your opening hand. So if you are playing the Arven package, you are playing the evolution tool, it's always good to go second. And yeah, just sort of guarantee that good start rather than just sort of hit and hope. It is going to be a Gimmighoul in the active and bench here. We'd like to see a Bidoof maybe. Don't know if there's an Arven in hand actually, so it is going to be a energy thrown there. Just trying to see what's in hand. Oh, okay, so it's just the Find for Family. Bringing the Bidoof onto the bench. I swear older Call for Families were like 2 Pokemon, but that one's just the one there. We're going to see an Ultra Ball down straight away. Not sure what to grab here. So it is going to be the Flaffy to start getting some energy into play via that. We are going to see another card played here. We're going to see the Fleet-Footed from Raikou first, giving the deck a shuffle. Just make sure it's randomized fairly. Not sure what we're looking for here. Nothing feels that great. I guess you want the Iron Hands set up again, but you also kind of want to save that last spot. The Iron Hands does go to the discard. That does surprise me. You could have attached for turn, you could have Flaffy, and it could be ready to go next turn. And we do see both Flaffies come into play, so it maybe could have got going this turn. With the Arven, the Forest Sealstone, and the double turbo could have come down. I'm not too sure about that. I'm not sure what the attacking option here is. Maybe going into the Miraidon. We are going to see the electric generator coming down here. I don't really like Miraidon as an attacker in this one. It does a ton of damage, but both players should have their benches filled, and it is going to be nothing off the electric generator. I think we might see a pass here. I guess you could Forest Sealstone. We are going for the Pokestop, and it is just going to be the Ultra Ball. Maybe thinning in the hand here to search out Mew. Although, is that just 2 cards in hand? We are going to see the double Flaffy coming down, and it's going to be onto the Miraidon. Is that all we see here? Is it just going to be the pass? Opting not to do anything this turn. Unless we see a switch card in hand and maybe another energy, we could see the Miraidon attack here. But even taking 1 prize doesn't feel great here. We are going to see the evolve onto 2 Gholdengos and the Bibarel come down. If we do see that path leave play here, that is going to be a huge swing. Obviously, Bibarel drawing the card here, just digging as much as possible. Can the path stick is the question. Though I don't see much in the hand of the Miraidon player. Can't quite make out those other cards. We are going to see potentially a Gimmighoul come down here. Or just an energy to take some more, or deal some more damage onto the Raikou, which is always good as well, using that energy this turn and then maybe gathering it back the following. So energy coming into hand here. Just curious how much damage we're going to see from this. So any rulebox Pokemon is going to mean the Greninja, the Gholdengos. And this is why I did mention I prefer the Gallade version, which we have started playing and like a bit better here. And it is just going to be a pass back, so it has worked this turn. Miraidon is going to be set up here. And we are going to see a Judge. Nothing in hand of the Gholdengo player, obviously, but they did grab some energy. So if they do manage to get that path out of play, it is going to be much easier to grab a knockout. So let's see what the Judge deals both players here. There's going to be 4 cards going into the hand of Miraidon here. We do see an energy. Maybe not much else, because still kind of slow here. It's got, yeah, I think it's got to be the attach to the Raikou retreat, and then always Flaffy and energy back to it, so it's ready to attack the following turn. And we are going to see the Flaffy go straight onto the Raikou here, and it is just going to be the attack. The 220, not quite the knockout as we mentioned before. Not seeing many of the other attackers here. I'm assuming they're prized. We did see an Iron Hands go to the discard, which I'm not a massive fan of. And it is going to be an Iono there. So fresh cards for both players. Potentially a chance to draw out for the Gholdengo player here. We're going to need to see a Stadium or Lost Vacuum. There's a few outs. Obviously work are not online this turn. It's going to be an Ultra Ball. Just getting rid of some VIP pass and a cross switcher there. Just thin out the deck, maybe draw some more cards with Bibarel. I'm guessing grabbing like a Gimmighoul, maybe a second Bidoof. think Gimmighoul is probably the best shout here. Gives you the extra attacker. Obviously the Gholdengo in the active already damaged here. And it is going to go straight onto the board here. Shuffle up, and Bibarel is potentially going to save the day here. Obviously sat under path. Gholdengo is not doing much. Greninja isn't doing much. Would like to see a few more cards played down before. Yeah, the attach goes on to Gholdengo, which is good. And then we see 3 from Bibarel. Is it going to be enough? I feel like it would have been slammed down a little bit quicker if there was something. I'm guessing it's going to be a pass. So it is just an attack for 50. Which isn't terrible. Obviously, you can grab those energies back and makes the knockout slightly easier here. We are going to have to see a retreat from Miraidon to get into that Raikou. Which is a nice easy 4 energy from the Gholdengo player. It is a much easier target. Obviously, Miraidon with the 220 is slightly more difficult, needing 5 energy. Not sure how great. I guess the Miraidon staying in the active is gone into the Raikou and retreated there. And we do see an extra energy. Oh, so there is a Thornton, which I completely forgot in my deck for this exact reason, for those surprise plays. We do see some chuckling there as the Iron Hands appears from nowhere, takes 2 prizes, and now it's over to Gholdengo to try and find a solution here. I do really like the Thornton, like I've mentioned in my deck profile video. It's just, it gives you options to attack with the attackers you need to when you need them. The only thing I would say is, I am and ahhing whether to keep it in at the moment, just because you need it at specific times and you have no way to search it out. Unless you play like a Luminion, then it becomes a lot more powerful. But we do see the worker slammed down by the Gholdengo player here, and it does mean they are out of path and they are going to start swinging here. Obviously the damage stays on from Thornton, so the Iron Hands is going to be much easier to deal with, but it does mean they've gone up on prizes. They've taken 2 prizes first. Would have maybe liked to seen that if we could have seen a switch or a retreat or something instead. Would that have worked? Yeah, because the 2 Fluffy on the bench, maybe if there's energy in the discard, could have got it set up where it would have meant they took the 3 prizes from Gholdengo instead of the 2 from the Gimmighoul. We are going to see a Radiant Greninja here throwing away some energy, which isn't a good sign. That probably means there's a ton of energy in hand. We are going to see the retrieval of 4 here. So yeah, we are going to see a knockout onto the Iron Hands. Needing the 4 energy here. I'm assuming there's 4 in the discard or potentially some more in hand. So we do see 5. Is that the hand or is that the discard? That's the hand. So they have gone into the hand here and it is going to be played down. 4 of them played down to take out the Iron Hands. And yeah, there is a damaged Gholdengo, so there is a way for the Miraidon player to still win this one. We are going to see the tandem unit come down to search out that Zapdos. In this case it's 220, so that snipe would be taking a knockout here. If we can see a generator here, we just need 1 energy. Oh, that is painful. If we saw a energy hit there, we could see both Fluffies attach, Raikou retreat, and we could see some damage stacked up and that Gholdengo on the bench sniped before it's removed from play, maybe by collapsed if there's one in the list. We do see them go to the Zapdos anyway. Oh, so we do see the attachment. So maybe we see attack from Raikou and then we see, or not. So we are going to see a slightly different play here, trying to take some of their draw out of play. I do see the path in hand, so with Bibarel gone, that is a huge swing there, and it is just going to be the 1 energy needed for Miraidon to finish this game. My only worry here is an Iono. I don't know if we see one in hand, but if an Iono comes down, that could be game. It is just going to be the 1 card. It is a worker played, so we are safe here. And that potentially could spell the end of this game. They still need a knockout, so Gholdengo is going to take 2. Then Miraidon attacks back, and Gholdengo could easily take 2 in the following turn. So even though it looks like Miraidon has this wrapped up, it's very much in the hands of Gholdengo here. If they can chain attacks, they are still going to win this one. It's just going to be... It's going to be what we see here. We can see a boss. We could see the Greninja come up and a nice easy win. But if not, might be slightly more of a struggle here. So we're going to see a few things shuffled back in. I don't know if you really need Gholdengos at this point or Gimme Ghouls. Maybe just energy makes sense. And it is just going to be some energy shuffled back into that tiny deck. Not many cards left here to finish off this game. But not many needed really. Just going to need the 4 for this Zapdos and then 4 for the Raikou on the following turn. And we did see a superior there. I think that might be game. Unless we see some disruption from the Miraidon player. Zapdos goes down easily. We're going to see Raikou go into the active. See an Arven. I don't know if there's, I guess, escape rope, but I guess they're just going to the other Gholdengo. I don't know if there's a way to win this one. We're going to see Fleet-Footed come down. The Bravery Charm does make it slightly more difficult. But there's just so many cards needed here. There needs to be a switch into the Miraidon. There needs to be... we need to see some kind of gust if they're going to win. If they're going to stall out, we could just see... Thinking about putting the Mew down here. Yeah, if they just want to stall, I think the Bravery Charm onto Miraidon, throw some energy onto it, and get an attack is good, but we do need to see a switch card for that to come off. And it's going to be how many bosses, how many Ionos and other things have been played here. So we do see the Mew go down. There is an Iono in hand. I think you almost always go for the Arven here. And guess it's just what resources we have left here, if any, to see the end of this game. The amount of time spent on this Miraidon turn would suggest there's not much going for it, or they know they don't really have many outs. We're going to see both Miraidon, both Flaffies, go onto the Miraidon here. I don't think I see any energy in hand. We are going to see an attach to Raikou. Okay, so the camera did cut out there. What basically happened is we saw an electric generator hit 1. We saw a charm go onto the Miraidon. And we've seen... Where's Raikou got? Raikou's on the far end now. And we saw a Mew hit play. I don't really like the Mew coming into play here. But we are going to see an attack from Miraidon. We're going to need to see 6 energy from the Gholdengo player. We are going to see the Superior come down. Obviously, having just discarded some cards last turn. 4 coming back into hand. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So even more than needed. Gholdengo taking the final knockout there. Such a close game. Obviously the final attack's been very important there. Like I said, the 1 prize and the last boss was prize. So there was no way they were coming out of that. If you've made it to this point in the video, thank you so much for watching. As always, let me know in the comments any decks you want to see, any matches you want to see, any videos you want to see. That's all I've got for this episode though, so I will catch you in the next one.